I'm thinking about maybe like getting involved with independent film. I think it's pretty cool. I like what's going on. There's some really interesting things taking place. There's this cool film that just came out, Dazed and Confused. That was a really indie thing out of Austin. And, like, I'm paying attention to this stuff. And he's like, well, I know this guy. He's in here all the time. He's actually making a film right now. Blah, 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 blah. He's working with Bruce Campbell. Bing.
What's going on, everybody? Rob Mabry here, writer, director, and producer of The Legend of El Chupacabra. You can check that out on Tubi, Amazon, and Apple TV. Today's guest on the Texas Indie Film Podcast is a filmmaker, anthrozoologist, and viral storyteller, Tom McPhee. He's the man behind over 130 million views on WA2S Films and the founder of San Antonio's Animalis Fabula Film Festival. From an American opera to Unleashed, The Dogs of San Antonio, Tom's lens captures the powerful connection between people and animals, often in the most extreme circumstances. He doesn't just make films, he builds movements. Let's get into it. Tom, welcome to the show.
Hey, Rob. I really appreciate being here. I'm a huge fan of what you're doing with Indie Texas podcasts. I think it just makes so much sense to me, and I love the entrepreneurial spirit behind it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Been having a lot of fun, learning a lot from a lot of terrific filmmakers. Hey, for the audience who may not know what an anthrozoologist is, can you explain that for us?
It's really, for me, simply my interpretation is a keen need to observe and see how humans and animals interact. I'm since I was literally a toddler watching the ants march about doing their thing on the pavement right outside my front door, to now, like I see, the birds in the sky, trees and the animals running across the greens, and I'm always looking and paying attention. Basically, an anthrozoologist is somebody who has a keen interest in human animal interaction. And for me, I've been focused on this since I came upon it in 2005. This was like the whole genesis of going from an independent filmmaker creating really interesting tools in the space in the 90s to mid 2000s being sucked into the animal space 5 minutes after Hurricane Katrina.
So tell us how that happened.
It happened because there was a moment in time. I had just wrapped up and sold a business, and I'm sitting here on a Saturday or Sunday morning or whatever it was at the time, hearing Mayor Ray Nagin basically crying on the radio that they still have all of this awful stuff that is still taking place and people are dying and this and that. And I was really compelled. I just sold what I was going to do. I was about to start working with creating some live theater at that point. And I said, I can go down, and thinking we're going to deal with people. But I also had a few cameras with me. The intent wasn't to go down to like make something or shoot something, not at all. We were going down to basically help the people situation that the mayor was going on about. But the moment that we opened up our door, in the first place that we stopped on, at Lamar Dixon Expo Center in Gonzales, Louisiana, the first thing I hear is we need somebody with a camera stat. We need to get pictures of all these animals. Boom. There's a huge cacophony of thousands of animals being brought in at this point. This is like the very beginning of the animal portion of this. Well, the prior few days, 3, 4, 5 days, the law enforcement in the areas that were affected were forcing people to leave the space now. Since there were so many behind, they needed to be evacuated, but they were at gunpoint in some cases, forcing people to leave without their pets. And so this caused a major issue with all these pets behind. everybody across the country seeing this and then responding dramatically in huge numbers, descending into the Louisiana area. And I'm watching all this like for the first time. I don't know anything really about animal activism, rescue, any of that. I'm not from that world. But it was mind blowing to me. I've been shooting a number of different things in the past, music. I had a Real Detroit Weekly, the music show in the early 2000s in Detroit, partnered with Real D, the magazine. I'd done stuff with sports, but when I came across this stuff with animals, it really blew me away because everybody just wears whatever they're like thinking or feeling right on their sleeves, and it's just all so raw and emotional. And so I started to film. I responded to that stat call for photos. For 3 days, I took 6,000 images of all the animals that were there so they could actually then ship them out. They had a record of those animals. And it was during this whole time, as a fly on the wall, seeing just crazy, crazy shit go down and recording a lot of that stuff. And I took the next 6 months to kind of see what was, what everything was about. Well, it turns out that those couple of days after um, being forcibly evacuated from the animals, the police were going around and shooting all the dogs. They, as soon as they got everybody out, they started to go street by street, just and there was a couple of schools where a lot of the animals were tied up because they were hoping to rescue, but they even made notations on the walls, please don't kill my animal, right?
Mhm.
um, Angel Baby was one of the dog's names. So that was my initiation into the world of kind of animal rescue, animal welfare. I spent 3 years on that project, made a movie called An American Opera, the greatest pet rescue ever, that still is playing somewhere around the world. Won a bunch of awards. I participated in content with Nat Geo, Animal Planet, and a whole host of other specials and some other movies. And we were just putting out some 20th anniversary stuff earlier this year as well, because it's been 20 years, which is unbelievable. But
So,
for 3 years,
so
I
sorry.
took the
I
film
was
on
just
on tour. I was going to say, and that informed me to make a nonprofit to try to do these things regularly.
gotcha. Yeah, I think maybe you've kind of answered the question I had for you. I was curious, at what point did you kind of realize like, hey, I feel like this is my life's work or my purpose? It feels like, that could have been the time, but is that how it played out for you?
Rob, that was instantaneous. That was like that micro burst in phenomenon that John Travolta's character, like as soon as that person said, "Hey, we need somebody with a stat," I literally saw up until now what we're doing now in my life flash through instantly. It
Wow.
immediately changed me, and all of my energy, all of my everything has been in this. I feel like that character in Phenomenon. My life was instantly altered.
So yeah, I mean, you've been doing this for decades now. You have filmed in some of the most intense post-disaster zones: Katrina, Haiti, Fukushima, the nuclear disaster.
That
What
was
what
crazy.
is it? Yeah, what is it that drew you, to these just really severe situations? And what was that like?
Um, Life affirming, basically, is what it was like. And what was driving me was what I call the juice, right? So I watched everybody get infected with the juice, that real extreme emotional energy to be doing good. I think everybody had felt that they had missed some opportunities following 9/11, 5 years before, and there was this massive outpouring and people could actually get to this place, and it was like a slow moving train wreck, and so more people could get to it. But I was watching this shift of humanity, and social media was just coming online, so there was a lot of different, like sharing of stuff. Um, so I spent 3 years on tour with the film. I got to meet a lot of different organizations. I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm always trying to figure out how do we like build off of what we have. That's going back to my early days in the business with my first film with Bruce Campbell, The Evil Dead, making Hatred a Minute, but knowing that I needed to build this thing called Flix Tour that we built to help kind of promote our film, even though we were then also promoting other people. So I keep building on these things as an entrepreneur. It's like, what can I do to find a path that is going to help me be successful in terms of like providing this out there? There's so much content. And so, although I had a good story, I took it on tour and we hit about 50 cities. I had a 35-foot bus and we went from city to city and we partnered with all these animal rescues along the way. And I felt really connected to this, but I'll tell you from a storyteller standpoint and from an entrepreneur standpoint, the biggest thing for me was like, there's not a lot of like competition in this space. Like, as a filmmaker, entrepreneur, media maker, entrepreneur, what are the lanes that I can come in and work here? And, how much competition do we have? How difficult or how easy is it to really rise above and have people pay attention to what you're doing and so forth? I know I'm not answering your question. Bring me back to the question, Rob.
Tom, I'm not sure what the question was at this point. That's on me, but I appreciate the answer. So I think we were talking, or I had asked about these, different disasters and
Oh, yeah,
going
yeah,
in
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
filming
We'll jump on that.
in
Yep.
those
And
extreme conditions. So.
this gets us into the whole next thing. So for me, it was the juice. Everybody was getting the juice. I was seeing everybody getting the juice. I got the juice, this infected aspect of like, oh, I got to pursue this stuff. And it made sense when we were working alongside some of the big national organizations, IFA, HSUS, ASPCA, Best Friends. They were used to doing this 8 to 10 times a year. They would deploy mostly, in North America, but sometimes around the world. And I'm like, oh my God, that's phenomenal. I'd be very interested. So as disasters started to come up, the first like weeks after I started World Animal as a nonprofit, and we got our acceptance from the IRS, I was in Haiti. Oh my God. Oh my God. And how I got there, oh my God, how I got back, oh my God. Like I swear to God, like, oh my God.
Don't leave us hanging. What happened?
Um, fourth world kind of country stuff, 3.5 hours by plane from us. Like, we went into the Dominican Republic. I got to know some people. I was going to go in with some other rescues that were kind of supporting this 25-member coalition in Haiti, and I went with them because they had nobody really kind of like doing anything for them. Everybody else, all these other coalition members had all their own filmmakers, and everybody was paying attention to them. They all even had to pay in to get into this. They had to pay $25,000 each of these organizations to be part of this partnership. And the idea was to keep out people like me, independent filmmakers that are also telling this story so they can manage, how they drive their donations. And for me, I want to know really what's going on. I don't want to, if you guys are supposed to be the good guys, transparency is key. So anyway, I was almost thrown out of camp when we came in. A lot of crazy stuff went down. Just I have content and we shot some stuff from that, and I went from that to the whole summer covering the disaster in the Gulf with the Deepwater Horizon, flying out of the back of C-130s, Coast Guard cutters as we're filming like destruction, like I'm like, how the fuck did I get here, right? Like, just because I rose my hand and I said, oh, we do this and we cover this. And so we were on this like continuous press junket for about 6 months on the Deepwater Horizon. Then right after that, the Japanese disaster happened. and got sucked in over there. And that was a whole other level. And we produced a film that was on TV shortly after that called Leaving Fukushima. Um, I was there with Lisa Lucas, a former child star who reached out to me to kind of do stuff. She's in a number of like old Christmas movies and stuff like that. She's also a big pain in the ass. And yes, I said that. She would get us in trouble all the time. We had the police kind of pull us over side. We had the mayor show up after she ended up being in a house because she wanted to feed the cat. The guy who pulled us aside and busted us, because they knew we were in fucking town. Like everybody
Yeah.
knew we were there because everything had been out, but we were kind of doing some shit. And she's in the goddamn house when the cops show up. And I'm with the guy who was interpreting for us and who's from Tokyo, but he's kind of American too. And we're just like, yeah, she just did this on her own. And we really,
Don't look at me, man.
the mayor, the mayor pulls up and basically starts bawling. He starts crying and he starts giving her a hug. And he's like, oh, the compassion. And then we, through an interpreter, he's saying this all in Japanese. And he's basically saying, we really appreciate that compassion and that ability and so on. And it's then that I learned. So in Japan, when everything kind of went sideways after their disaster, everybody came together, even to the point where they kind of stopped drinking and they were trying to rationally figure shit out. And the government had to tell them, like, don't, torpedo another one of our industries. Everybody keep drinking. It's okay. Let's figure this out, but still keep drinking. While 5 years before, when I'm in New Orleans, for 3 days after it, everybody had raided every pharmacy and every liquor store, and we're up on the levees getting bombed for days. And they're like, where New Orleans was chaos,
Yeah.
Japan was like total compassion, and it blew my mind that the mayor was bawling on the stranger's thing because she came all the way from America to help out.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
So then I got challenged. So we had all this stuff in our first like year and a half of doing this, and people knew I had an American opera. And then I got challenged because Detroit had this really, and I was up in Detroit at the time, had this really bad dog issue, or at least perceived a really bad street dog. So people were like, what the hell are you doing? You're running all over the place, like doing all of this stuff for all this other, and you got all this stuff going on in your backyard in Detroit. Why don't you get on it, buddy? So we did. So we created the American Strays Canine Survey. We basically built a campaign and worked with Fleischman Hillard. We generated 2.5 billion impressions in 2013 when we started to really ramp up what we were doing with the American Strays Project through World Animal Awareness Society. And for me, doing a thing like a canine survey just means we're just out in the front, lines of whatever's going on in whatever space is with our cameras and our technology and just gathering data. And a lot of that data is point of origin animal rescue, which is, everybody wants to see. And so that led us to understand how to really get to the front lines, how to build these relationships with nonprofits. But we retain all the rights of everything that we do. When we have bigger partners, we split donations where they get 80% of the donations. We get 20% to run our operations. We keep all of our ad revenue. Last couple of years, we've been able to generate, going on 400, in terms of the finances that we are able to generate through the Google YouTube universe. It's been pretty like outstanding. Is like our project, and I'll cut away in just a second. But our project Potent Dogs is
Yeah.
able to happen because we have the revenue that we do to not only help our donor, the nonprofits that we provide the donations to. 110% of donations go to them, but we have a lot of other revenue streams because of what we do. that allows us to underwrite what we're doing, that allows us to buy IP, that allows us to purchase other YouTube channels, that type of thing, that allows us to contract out to editors. So we put out a video pretty much every day, every other day on a number of channels.
Yeah, talk to me a little bit about the YouTube channel, how that came to be. I imagine it's exceeded your expectations at this point, but I'm curious as to how it started, how it grew, and maybe for filmmakers out there, right, who are
Yeah,
trying to build their brand, what might they learn from your experience with the channel?
we got to forget the whole like idea of being a filmmaker in the YouTube space. It's not that. YouTube has its own language, its own syntax in terms of what it does and how it does. And you just need to figure out how you can fit a flow of creating, good, engaged content for an audience. For us, in the early days, all I would do is emulate the top five, other organizations that were doing this and just start to, in essence, look at the things that they were doing, copy certain elements. We've gotten very sophisticated, though, since we launched in 2012. The first 3 years, I'm telling you, man, for as smart as I think I am, I'm 10 times dumber than I really realize that I am. I can be really stupid, right? So the first 3 years, it's like, we're a nonprofit. We're just kind of do this. We'll tell these stories and people will pay attention and so on. Yeah, no, right? Not only do you not really have kind of engagement if you're doing stuff that's PSA like or anything that smacks of like a PSA, people just will like avoid you like the plague, man. They want to see stories. So
Yeah.
I was starting to see in the comments where a number of people were going, "Oh, this is great," and then just make sure you watch the adverts because it goes to the nonprofit. I'm like, wait a second. I said, I like because YouTube will run ads on stuff, whether
Hmm.
you have the ability to monetize it or not. And apparently we were already at that point and that we could a couple 3 years into it. And people are like, "Hey, watch the," and I'm like, "I've never seen that before." And I hate ads. I don't like ads. I'll turn stuff when there's ads, but there's people here that'll support my organization by watching the ads, and we can earn revenue from that. Are you kidding me? I was hooked, sold, started to turn on AdSense and everything. Then we started to see some things like make sense, and then we started to figure out how to make viral videos and telling stories and so on. And all of a sudden, we're having all these epiphanies as we're kind of growing into this process of like going from zero ad revenue to like hundreds of dollars and then more. But part of it was like how we put stuff together. It's like, a 10-minute video people would watch up to like 4 minutes. And so it'd be like, I was putting our ads at like these, why? I don't know. There, no rhyme or reason can be brought to YouTube without understanding YouTube to bring the proper reasoning. Like you can't be somebody from the arts, an author, a filmmaker, a playwright, and think you're going to use those same kinds of things to help market or sell or present within the YouTube space. It will not work, and you see it all the time where really talented people put out stuff that doesn't. YouTube is the second greatest search engine in the world, and you just have to
Hmm.
build your content to be searchable. And if you remember when we originally had McDonald's on every corner, and then all of a sudden we had Burger Kings on the opposite corner after that, that's what you got to do. You got to find and say, "Hey, what lane am I in?" Well, this is my lane. My lane is animals, animal rescue, and things like that. And that's my focus. But what's your lane? Your lane could be any number of things, but you have to separate what you think about in the filmmaking world, how you apply it in the YouTube world. The only thing that counts in the YouTube world is views, watch time, and how much money you can generate in that process. It is an economic engine for us. It's how we run our business. But a lot of people try to look at it as an artistic. It is, but do not take those artistic sensibilities in terms of how you think people will engage with your content and apply it in the YouTube space.
Yeah, so I don't know how involved you are in the day to day at this point, but how do you continue to generate content without burning out?
I'm
Are you
sorry.
burnt out?
Actually, I don't think so because I'm in a passion zone. I dig what I do, and I think I've got some pretty good like abilities to kind of manage this stuff, and I've got a really good team. So we've been able to World Animal Awareness Society, WA2S Films, Man Smiling Moving Pictures, and we have a couple of contract players. My son also works for me. He runs a couple of my our channels. He also edits. He also does a lot of frontline stuff and things like that. I've got another cutter up in Des Moines, Iowa. She's just superb, and we're working on putting our stuff out. But we spend a lot of time using tools like Frame.io to collectively, and we have other partners. So I have two packages of software that I use to manage everything. I use Milanote, which allows me to create virtual studios, and so we have a studio community of all the different things that provide us what we need, and we can interact with those people pretty much in real time in what I call a dynamic whiteboard, whether we're using
Yeah.
video and whatever. The other thing is Frame, which is part of the Adobe family, and Frame.io, and it allows us to collaborate in terms of what we're doing, and so that helps us generate a great deal more content. For me, also, it's doing many different things. So we have teams coming in next week from Tuesday through Sunday. We're gonna be in the field, and I'll film, but I have ways to be able to do what I'm doing, and plus I will be down back here to some degree. But we have a pretty good team, and our workflow is one that allows us to do what we're doing. And we wake up hungry every day. It's like how do we figure this out? How do we fix this? We've had too many really really awesome days and great things where we're like we want more of that. We want to be able to put more into Animalis Fabula in the end. Animalis Fabula can only happen because we're generating the funds through YouTube, Google, nonprofit donations, AdSense, those funds, and then to be able to, package that with our publication, Texas Media Maker, we can then bring in sponsors too. But I intend to take over Lila Cockrell in the future on Thanksgiving weekend, along with a couple of a couple of the theaters at AMC Riverside, and I'd like to do my our workshops at the Chamber of Commerce, which is right between the two.
Yeah, Animalis Fabula is a film festival focused specifically on animal stories.
Animalis Fabula is Latin for, in essence, animal story, and I loved how it sounded, very precocious too. It's like, what the hell is that? But yeah, it's like it so makes sense to me, especially when you hear Kevin Smith say "fabula." It's like it's brilliant. And you could call it Anifab too if you're having troubles with Animalis Fabula. But animal story, it allows us to really hone in on what we're doing. So I'm digging what I'm doing, creating, being able to acquire IP and all this other stuff. And part of the ways I can do that is to have this entity, Animalis Fabula, where our focus is telling animal stories, and we get to meet hundreds of other animal storytellers from around the world. It's the greatest thing ever. And then to throw a party for them once a year here in San Antonio. And last year we had 20 come in from all over the world, Tunisia, 24-hour, to get here, and just love the experience. For me, I'm looking to build the best Rolodex that I can with genius filmmakers that do the same thing that I do, so I can get better at what I do. I'm in awe of the young people who bring incredible stuff to it. I like sharing that stuff with other people. And there's always like these wildlife film festivals or, this, hey, we've got this, specific thing that's not what we're about. Like some of the best stuff we have is just films that have an animal as a component or in the character or about the thing, but it's, we're not an activism thing, although we get a lot of that stuff, right? I get a lot of documentaries, but my favorite stuff is the narrative stuff that blows you away. One of my favorite films was a science fiction film called Hug Me Right from South Korea. And I loved Potent Dogs so much that I couldn't leave the creator alone. His name is Dali, and he's the nicest man on the
Yeah.
planet. And it turns out he created the Cubic series and he was behind the Tobot stuff. And I'm looking at this stuff when we're programming, and I'm like, oh my God, this looks amazing. We're
So
celebrating.
hey, for the audience,
Yeah,
Potent
man.
Dogs is a South Korean animated show, and you took that and created an English language version of it. So talk a little bit about how that came to be, what the process was, and how it's doing.
It's all about the connections we make at Animalis Fabula. Like Anifab is this yearly gathering where we get to connect with these other creators, and I had an opportunity to watch what was originally they took the series is called Potent Dogs. It was this massively viral hit right as it got to us in 21 for our festival in Austin. Like it was the biggest thing in Korea, like times 100, like huge. It blew all the K-pop stuff out of the way, stuff BT, like all these famous, not even close. And we get it. And I like was blown away. Our judges were blown away, and we could see that it was basically a serialized thing that they put together. And I was cool with that. Like they they
Yeah.
they they sent us the first year. So Korean episodes there were like 8 minutes. You take off the opening in the back end, you get about 7 minutes of content. And they took all of their first season, 18 episodes, and they put those together in a pretty coherent feature, really. And
Okay.
I really thought it was pretty cool. I wanted to figure out how to do something with it. Turns out he gets an award from us, sends in a video about the award, and he's in the thing. He's accepting the award, and he's like, "Yeah," and they basically want to hang me and put me in jail here, and they're taking us off the air, and I just lost my, these deals that we had. This turns out some real right like Terry Ricolta stuff, conservative, stuff from, trying to shut down Married with Children here in the United States, what's going on with
Mm.
Potent Dogs. There's a lot of potty humor. Like I was recently heard from Hasbro and Mattel, they like heart smart fart, right? When they're looking for stuff, it's got to have heart smart and fart. Like we're talking about kids, and so
I love that motto.
and it's real simple too, right? You can remember it. And so I was I'm like, wow, there's a lot of fart in this. Like the whole thing that blew up is this song called "I Stepped in Poop," and it's a brilliant K-pop not send up, and it just went through the roof, and so the series went through the roof, and long and short of it is, I couldn't leave this guy alone, and I was planning something else, and I was going to make, hey, why don't we do it where we end our show where we kind of are reading to the boy in the thing on the farm, Rangers rescues, and they're on the farm, and and so the idea was he's reading the book, but it then goes into the animated stuff. So we see him kind of doing his anime. We open up, and all of a sudden we're into that clip. So we took a couple
Yeah.
of clips, from Potent Dogs, and we found some really good voice actors, and we put together some stuff, and we all liked it. We really liked it. And so I asked him. His name is Dali. The name of the studio in Seoul, Korea is called Retrobot Animation Studios. They're actually like legendary. And Dahl is legendary. He's the guy behind Cubics from the 25 years ago that was huge, and Tobots, the series from Young Toys. And this was his first IP. And so he's telling us, hey, this is so great that we're getting this, but I'm so sad because all of this other stuff is coming down on us. He had
Mm.
just taken on a big loan. They had just aired their second 18 episodes. So they basically got 2 seasons. He just took out a loan to finish third and fourth because he's getting all these deals. He got a trading card deal. He got a couple electric game deals. He got this music deal. There was going to be a fucking live show like in Seoul, like to the
Wow.
music. Yeah, it was like huge. EBS had the show set for 7+. It probably should have been 10+, because there's some stuff going on here. We described Potent Dogs as Planet of the Apes meets Transformers, the musical. Um, Imagine that, right? Um, and it should not have been set at 7, but basically EBS threw them under the bus, pulled the show. All their shit got canceled. He's now scratching like crazy to try to stay alive, and we're trying to get through, what we can do to help him get 3 and 4. So anyway, he's telling us this. We try to incorporate some of the stuff that's going on. It kind of works. I'm like, hey, I really want to do the whole series. He gets on a call with me with their business people. He's like, Tom, sometimes, he goes, I'll work with anybody. Like, like I've worked with big companies, I've worked with small companies. I really like what you did with the piece that we were going to do the inserts with. He says, yeah, let's do it. And we worked out a deal of how I got 40% ownership, in this IP for this work that we did. So we paid for the work, we paid for the vocal artists, we paid for the production. He actually mastered all of them. He's been mastering all of them. So when you get your final stuff, he'll actually put like he does it himself. Even though he's got
Yeah.
an army of people, this guy is totally hands-on. By the way, I'm totally hands-on. That's why I was laughing at you earlier. I'm 365, like what, seven, whatever, 24/7, whatever. This is just what I do, and I love it.
Yeah.
And so man, I don't even know where to go. We're actually making a doc called I Stepped in Poo, the
Yeah, I
Potent
love it.
story that basically then we have a bunch of shit that we got to go through. I had a huge mutiny on our fucking vocal crew. We had fucking crazy shit, people trying to take over. And I put everybody in a silo. That's where we really started using the Millinote stuff and really locking stuff down, getting
Yeah.
everybody in NDAs. Like that's so important to like. Here I am thinking, oh, kumbaya. We have a big like group like hug with all 20 of the actors. Fuck no, they all talk behind the scenes and go, "Yeah, do you believe like let's take over this kind of." I'm like, oh my god. So we had a mutiny. We lost 5 or 6, which I was not sad about because the replacements were just amazing, just
Yeah.
incredibly better, and it helped us focus on. I had an A-lister that was just really a pain in the butt, and so I was very happy that we got to work with really talented, very motivated people on it. So the first things we did, we looked at the music. And I knew all my characters as I broke down the whole program. I had I had an exceptional writer, Oscar Calhoun, that I'd been working with for a while, and Oscar tore into this program to figure out how to adapt it. Not do dubs. This is not a dub. We
Hmm.
literally tried to adapt it so there was a lot of this sensibility of our own space and place just as well as the characters.
Yeah.
So it was a true adaptation, not only the music, the words and the songs and all that. But my sense was if we can get the songs right, we can get this right. So we took on the hardest songs first and we walked through the production of those and they turned out flipping amazing. And so we were off to the races at that point. It's like if we can sing the stuff that's in here, because it's everything. There's Bollywood, there's some rap, there's some Korean folk, there's all these different types of ballads. of music within this thing. There's a Rocky Horror Picture Show kind of like sounding to, where it's really, I forget which song it is, but um, so there's everything. And I thought if we can do the music, we can. Now, mind you, I'd never done this before, not for 1 second. Never messed with animation, never worked with vocal actors like this, not at all. However, I can say right now, I have 12 finished episodes that have now been licensed by 8 different broadcasters, and Potent Dogs is basically catching fire. And I look at my statements and we're generating revenue, and I'm very, very
Oh,
happy.
that's awesome. Congratulations.
Man,
Yeah,
it was a
cool.
joy. It was for me the coolest thing that I've done. And really what it is, we're drawing, we're coloring by numbers, quite frankly, because everything's finished. We know what it needs, its tonality needs to sound like. And when we had the opportunity to kind of lean into that and figure it out and have the best people, we had 24, 25 people on crew and vocal. Our vocal team was 18 people. Like, we got some great performances, just great. And to kind of know that I cast those people, and we we put those words together in this space, and our collab, like, my greatest thing is Dali is basically my mentor, and he's so grateful for the work that we've been able to do on the American side. So it's so reciprocal. It's like, this guy is amazing, and to take me under his wing and to help me like put this out into the world, like, yeah, like I'm really, really, really fortunate.
Are you looking ahead at all to potentially doing anything else in the animation space?
Yes, because once we figured it out, we definitely have a template. And the thing is, a lot of my vocal talents are super proud of what they did, and they've been promoting and talking and being nominated for awards. And so now I have this massive collection of VO people who've attached onto me they're heavy in the LinkedIn space. Different groups in different places. My animal rescue people are in the Facebook space. The VO people are pretty heavy and serious in the LinkedIn space. So we have a lot of friends that are interested. And for me, because we get series as well as other productions from around the world, we have opportunities to flip this as well. So I'm always looking for content. And we have one that came in earlier in the year for Animalis Fabula. We're trying to figure it out. These are the Brazilian descendants of Sesame Street, and we're looking to take their Sesame Street type content, is very much like that, and give it a new voice. So that's one that we're looking at. But where this really works, I think best is really good animation. I'm really picky. Like, Potent Dogs absolutely stood out to me. I've seen a ton of stuff, and everybody can do it. I was at Kids Screen last year in San Diego. There was, what, 1,400 producers presenting their stories and their kids projects. 90% of them animated. 90% of those are, animal focused or whatever, and 99% of those will never get a deal. And I'm sitting here with something where we got to color by numbers. I got to actually like choose this fucking balls material. Happens to be from South Korea. Happens to compete with BTS stuff. Happens to have the pedigree that the director has, and then has this really like situation where it went viral, and then the legs were chopped out. So now we got this fucking crazy ass fucking story about great heights, and then fucking and here we are coming again. And
Yeah.
so it's not really easy to find another one of those, Rob. It's like I need to have some good material. We see a lot of stuff, but for me, if I'm going to put in that time and I'm going to put in that effort and I'm going to build that relationship with that person, we're going to be deep, genuine. Um, it's got to be the right material that I absolutely have fallen in love with. And I fell in love with Potent Dogs. I fell in love with the backgrounds. I fell in love with this one Korean folk song that was in Korean. I don't speak Korean, but it made me cry. It's
Wow.
Korean presentation. And so when we got to that in the English, it's like, oh my God, like, I get to share this with people, you know?
Awesome.
And yeah, and but so for me, yes, The answer is yes. We now have a template. We know how to do this. We have lots of people that want to participate in this process. And I'm seeing material from around the world, but then it's just like, it's got to be grade A. If we're going to do this, we're just not going to do it. It's got to be grade A.
Gotcha. So let's talk about something a little closer to home. It's the Texas Indie Film Podcast. I know you're working on a documentary, Unleashed, The Dogs of San Antonio. Tell us a bit about that.
I first started coming to San Antonio in 2015, and we were actually measuring by using our canine surveys what was going on then. We'd built some relationships with San Antonio Pets Alive, Animal Care. But then we went to focus our energies on Houston and Detroit, some other places. And when I moved back here a few years ago, I was in 2018 moved to east side of Austin. Did really good at the height of the real estate up there, at the height of it, and we had paid cash, so we were able to do really well. Coming down here, we figured, hey, we want something different, and San Antonio has an unbelievable like cost of living and the amount of like real estate that's available for somebody in the buyer space.
Yep.
Liked it, bought, and then I was already running Animalis Fabula up in Austin. It was like shifting down here and then making the shift in a general sense. Couldn't make the shift with everything else I was doing without fully investing on the rescue side as well. And so started to develop a program, started to develop relationships with a lot of the rescue community here. And basically started getting back in the field and shooting. In doing so, I realized things are the same. They're not really different. There's different circumstances, all this, and I just thought, so the idea is there's enough content, there's enough story, and a feature should be told about this. Whether we get, much beyond 75 minutes on it, I don't know. It might just be structured as an hour-long PBS piece. But the idea is to really open up with the whole idea of that Molly a couple of years ago, the people going to jail and so on. But then really getting into, here's the real situation. Here's what is the situation. The dogs are basically being scapegoated. Most of the dogs that are in those situations, they got out. Like they were in a situation. They're not, these are not like friendly animals, and they shouldn't have an opportunity to get out. For us, we've been looking at how to work with the rescues to support the animals that are on the street because people aren't taking care of them or abandon them, whatever. Litters are being created. And I needed to find a way to kind of really pull all the pieces together. And to do that was initially, I thought, a feature. But I think if this is done correctly and if I set it up properly, we'll probably turn it into an ongoing series as well. What we're doing with our work, so Unleashed the Dogs of San Antonio, the whole idea is to try to just unlock the reasons why we have some of the extreme situations with homeless dogs on the street. Pretty simple. But it goes to the heart of the other work that we're doing to support World Animal Awareness Society to help our nonprofit partners. And what we're starting to do is make more content that is, we know, going to go out to the greater distribution world. We use Film Hub and have for a number of years. John Fitzgerald, I think, originally recruited us way back in the day. And when I first started making, our stuff for YouTube, it was run and gun, silly, stupid, quick and fast. But we figured out how to then stitch it together like a Frankenstein monster, taking all these independent parts and putting to the features. Now we're kind of rethinking about, because we wanted to have it go out into the market. So now we're rethinking about that and thinking about, well, really what we want to do is we want to make a series for Tubi or this or whatever that we're also going to push through our YouTube space, which drives stuff. But for us, the money has been YouTube. We as a Google nonprofit partner. I have a lot of tools that are available to me. Like we generate thousands monthly through this YouTube giving program. They don't take any fees. Like we get promoted, better. I get $40,000 a month in AdSense. I've got the Google Nonprofit Pro, which allows us to put it out. So we're just now, as a collective and as a team, really pulling all of these items together to then help each one of these phases of what we're doing.
Gotcha. Let's go back a little bit. Um, I don't know if it was prior to WA2S, but I know that you were established in the independent film world very early on. You had a indie film tour, Flix Tour, I think is what it was called, and actually did a film with Bruce Campbell. I'd be very interested to start there. What was that all about, and what was it like?
That was the wackiest kind of like thing of all. So I had just sold an interactive company that I spent the previous 3-4 years building called Multidynamics. Even I'm a really bad boy sometimes, Rob. So we went to this industry like event early on in this industry, the interactive like hard media like CD-ROM and stuff like that. We were working in CDI through film, and we went to an early conference about this, knowing there were going to be a lot of potential people looking to actually have these services done. So in the very first break, of the very first thing, I put down our pamphlet to all of these people that were attending this conference. I didn't pay for that. It's like, whoops, our pamphlet with our services appears. So anyway, the next thing I get is a call from the Turkish Olympic Committee that needed a three language disc because they wanted to make a go at the Olympic Games in Turkey, in Istanbul in 2000. I ended up being the English language for that too. So there's some stuff from way back when that's got me way there. But that, as soon as I sold that, I'm thinking, I'd like to figure out how to get involved with like maybe independent film. I'm thinking about this like actively, and I'm thinking it's probably going to take about 2 years to figure it out, network, and kind of like put some shit together. So I'm mid afternoon. I don't have really anything just yet to do. I'm getting ready to figure some stuff out. I'm at the neighborhood video store where we actually checked out videos. Remember those days? Um,
I do. Yeah.
so, and I'm bullshitting with the guy, and he kind of knew a little bit of some of the stuff that I did. In so our interactivity got a lot of attention in the Detroit area. We were doing some really state of the art stuff, and so kind of knew. And plus, I'd been going in there for a long time. And I'm like, well, yeah, what are you gonna do? I don't know. Yeah, I'm thinking about maybe like getting involved with independent film. I think it's pretty cool. I like what's going on. There's some really interesting things taking place. There's this cool film that just came out, Dazed and Confused. That was a really indie thing out of Austin, and like I'm paying attention to this stuff.
Yep.
And he, he's like, well, I know this guy. He's in here all the time. He's actually making a film right now. Blah 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 blah. He's working with Bruce Campbell. Bing. We call a meeting for that Sunday. The guy doesn't show up. He sleeps in. It's like 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, what the fuck is this? What do you mean you're sleeping in? You missed the meeting with me? Who are you? What? I said, let's do this one more time. So we have a meeting. We figure it out. He seems pretty affable guy for the most part. And within literally less than a week of saying it's going to take me 2 years, I'm now the lead producer on this movie that's going to be co-produced with Bruce Campbell, of this horror kind of piece from this kid by the name of Mike Callio. I'm going to call it Hatred of Minute, based on an Edgar Allan Poe little pull out of a poem, and in the Hatred of a Minute. And it's a psychological thriller, and I'm telling you, we started making calls to money people. People started responding. We got our first 100,000 or 100 and change. I forget what it was, like 165 And we started production moments after that. Campbell's appearing on set, half Detroit's coming in. Like, we made this, boom. Took us 4 years to actually finish it and get it out. So I'm getting to be known a little bit about the guy who kind of put this thing together. So I'm at our post production house in Pontiac, and Roger goes, "Hey, I want to introduce you to these guys. They're making this thing called Young Boys Inc." He goes, "This guy used to play for the Redskins, Terry Crews. Terry, meet Tom, Terry Crews." And I ended up giving Terry all of my production documents, our contracts, and that's what happened. So I got all my stuff from Campbell. So I consider myself part of the Bruce Campbell Evil Dead, Renaissance Pictures. I'm an off branch. So if you have this filmmaking tree, right? You've got different people that kind of have been inspired or been whatever. Mine is the Renaissance Pictures, Bruce Campbell, Sam Raimi, the whole team, all of them, Rob Tapper.
Not a bad lineage.
No. And you don't really kind of know it at the time. I've been in some really key points too, and I'm about to get one in a second. Like, so, you're doing all this, and you've got all this stuff going on, and we've got all this attention, and people are paying attention, and by the way, I didn't know Terry Crews blew up until about 6 years later. Like, I didn't know anything that happened to him until all of a sudden I start to see him everywhere. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my God. But that's happened a bunch. So we are going to be in post-production hell on Hatred of a Minute for about 4 years. And I can't stand that. It's totally, the limbo, I cannot fucking deal with that. So
Was
I
it
created this.
financing? Like what was the holdup?
No, it was the director producer, Mike Callio, figuring out how to actually tell the story that he shot. It wasn't working. They needed to figure out a few things. We had this really fucking killer cutter. I forget her name at the moment. She's very famous. Fuck, I can't remember her name. Again, from that whole, I think she even cut the Dark Man trailer, and she cut the other stuff when Sam started to take off. I can't remember her name. Murawski was the editor they ended up going to, but she cut this unbelievably great trailer for us, and it got us into the Fangoria convention in New York, where we got to present, "Hey, we're coming with this thing," and it was received really well. So well, we got to hang out with Angie Everhart on the top while we were listening to Penn Jillette and Gilbert Gottfried fuck with everybody during they were doing one of the Crypt movie premieres. I think the one that starred
Okay.
the comedian. I can't think of his name. Anyway, so we're in New York. We're doing this thing, but we can tell it's not going to go in. He's nowhere close to doing it. So I'm like, I got to figure out something I can do, and I'm figuring out, like, as I'm getting to know everybody and other people that are going through this, like, why don't I make like a situation where we can create a situation to distribute films, but I don't have to worry about four-walling it. I don't have the money to pay somebody, blah, 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 blah. And I said, wow, what about going to like a college campus? It's like a whole city within a space. And long and short of it, I reached out to a couple of National Association of Campus Activities programmers. I made a connection with Auburn Moon Agency, which literally happened to be half hour from my house. Normally, they're in other places in the country. This one happened to be in my backyard. Convinced this person who didn't want to take a meeting with me to do this, who told me that you're going to be lucky if we get 6 bookings during this next thing. Now, they go on these tours in 3 or 4 places, and you have all these bookers from all these colleges. They're all students that come in, and they're buying their campus activity programs and so on. And so there's these showcases that help to showcase the stuff. We shared our stuff. We had 50 dates the first fall. And we had some unbelievably talented filmmakers come in, including Vince Pereira with a movie called A Better Place, which was produced by Kevin Smith's USQ. And
Mm.
Kevin would show up in Pittsburgh. We had 3 gigs in Pittsburgh while he was shooting Dogma. How lucky is that? He would show up at these things and the place would go off the hook.
Oh, I
And
bet.
so a lot of stuff came out of that. We had Oscar nominees that Don Hertzfeld was on tour with us, the animator. Um, boom, boom. We got all this stuff going on, and people are coming in from all over because we also have partnerships with these big magazines. Because I was going to colleges, I could do these partnerships with Movie Maker, with Movie Line magazine, gave me full pages for a year because we were distributing their stuff at the college campuses. And filmmakers were seeing this, and we were challenging, like, I think we're mocking in some of our adverts the campaign that ABC was running with their yellow foot, background and a blur font. So we were basically attacking ABC, going, "Look, we're completely off the rails here." And we were starting to get a lot of attention. And the next thing I know, I get this project um, that it's like I'm going to take you on a little tour here for just a second. So these are
Sure.
the ones that I'm talking about. This is Paul Feig right here. That's Paul Feig's Life Sold Separately. Paul went on to be a huge, that's that right there. This is Vince Pereira from a USQ. These guys toured on my Flicks tour. Their projects were just, responded to in all kinds of different ways. But Paul conceived, um, wrote, wrote the pilot, and then proceeded to ask I'll tell you in a second, while he was on tour, to places like Scranton, PA, Wilkes-Barre, um, and there's a little story behind that. Paul conceives of Freaks and Geeks, and he
Love
comes
freaks and
back
geeks.
to my house, and we're doing 3 gigs in Michigan. So he's staying at my house for like a week. And he's like, "Do you mind if I have this call? I got a couple of calls with some people. We're gonna have this call with Judd Apatow, one of my partners, and DreamWorks. They're just putting together this thing, and they're interested in this project." I go, "No." So in my basement studio in my little house in Pleasant Ridge, Michigan, history was made as I got to listen to DreamWorks and Paul Feig and Judd Apatow like work their way through a deal and get Freaks and Geeks on the air, which was like a flash in time.
Awesome.
And that's now become a cultural icon. He was mostly broke, Paul was, when he was on Flicks tour. He was, you know, he was actually using Flix Tour to find himself. So we got him a car. He was driving from campus to campus to campus of these things. Some would be great presentations. Some would be like whatever. If anybody knew, he was going to also, direct Ghostbusters, the get, the with Melissa, Spy, um, and so
Bridesmaid.
many others. Like what like he just did another, like his now body of work in terms of what he's produced. He's the kind of director now, and for the last 5 pictures, Paul Feig presents. He gets his name on the
Hmm.
ad.
Oh, great comedic director for sure.
And I got to hang out with him before he was the very classy, uh, sharp dressed man that he is today.
Great. Tom, it's been a real pleasure. Sorry. Wanted to end. You're obviously a sharp entrepreneur. I think that's a lot of things that filmmakers kind of struggle with. That aspect, the business and show business. So, leave us with one piece of advice, just in terms of what it means to be a filmmaker as it relates to being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, you got to be a Swiss Army knife, and if you're not, you got to have some people that are very close to you that can fill in those gaps. excuse me, I needed to be really smart about how we make things convert, right? Um, for us, anytime we're looking at doing anything, it's will this convert? And what we mean is, will it convert to money?
Yeah.
Like if you can't pay for the things that you're doing, how can you do those things? They're just going to be dreams, or they're going to be really hard to do. So our mantra here, and it has been for the last when we started turning on AdSense in 2015, when we started to actually monetize what we're doing, it's been 10 years. Um, the number one thing is, how will this convert for us? How will it turn on the faucet for us to do more? Like, so that's at the core of everything we do, even our nonprofit work. Like, if we're able to do things that are helpful for others and it generates revenue, everybody wins.
All right. Well, thank you so much for
Texas
being on
Media
the
Maker,
show.
Texas Media Maker. I just want to throw this out. The whole reason for doing that is to have a voice for all the filmmakers and all the people out there. I want to carry everything that you do here in the podcast, Rob, and we want you to express your voice through Texas Media Maker. But that's everybody. We want to be one of those grand central gathering points of people who make stuff at all levels. Like, I'm probably the first guy you've come across that does animal stuff, right? Or
Yep.
reality-based stuff. So I'm interested in it all. But a thing like Texas Media Maker and what you're doing with the podcast helps everybody.
Yeah, that's definitely part of the mission to, support other filmmakers, promote what's happening here in Texas. I think it's becoming a vibrant filmmaker community. So thank you for what you do for filmmakers. Thank you for what you do for animals. I really, as hard and gut-wrenching as it is to watch some of the content, I think it's really important. So appreciate that. This has been the Texas Indie Film Podcast. I'm Rob Mabry. Have a great day. That's it for this week's episode of the Texas Indie Film Podcast. Don't forget to follow, like, and comment. And if you're a filmmaker from the Lone Star State and you'd like to be a guest on the show, contact Texas Indie Film on Facebook, Instagram, or email at texasindiefilm@gmail.com.